All right, welcome everybody to the Curiosity Experiment. And you're like, man, what the heck is the Curiosity Experiment? We're here, three amazing intellectual human beings here to explain exactly what the Curiosity Experiment is.
First of all, lower the bar. Lower the bar.
Come on, you gotta let them dream about what's coming.
Yeah,
so
confidence.
Yeah, my name's Q. I'm here with Clay. Say hey, Clay.
How are y'all?
And then our fabulous Derek.
Fabulous.
Hello. You are fabulous.
Hello. Pull on my heartstrings.
So to be quite honest, this is a little bit of the brainchild of Clay, but kind of birthed out of our natural hanging and conversations. And so maybe Clay, take us through like what the dream was as we started putting this together.
Yeah, I just, to me, I've kind of always wanted to do a podcast, but I've also, I think that there needs to be a Christian perspective of like a free thinking podcast. Like I think a lot of Christian podcasts are too specific. Like it has to be about the Bible. It has to be about Jesus. And I'm not saying that that's not what we're doing. Certainly it is, but I think it would be cool to have the freedom to talk about things from a Christian perspective that are outside of that. So, I mean, something just as crazy as Sasquatch, aliens, anything in the world we want, anything that makes us curious. I mean, that's literally the point of the name. It's the Curiosity Experiment.
There's so many things that make me curious.
Exactly. And why wouldn't we record that?
Yes, I agree.
Like, will anybody participate with us on this journey?
Like all the four people that will, you know? But it's like a way to delve into our minds, which is
tens of people.
Extremely scary, I imagine. But also, you know, I think it's extremely important for us to mention too. Like, I mean, we're all part of what's called Abertville United, and that is, you know, the cooperation and collaboration of youth pastors in Abertville, Alabama. And so, like we started doing the workshops for youth pastors and stuff. So, I think it's extremely important that we provide resources and possibly insight into that. And so when we do these workshops, we can also do podcasts and stuff, and interview people in that regard. And like I said, just kind of delve into the curiosity of our minds. Like, what makes you curious, Derek?
I mean, it depends. I mean, there's just so, like, what topic? Like,
I throw them out there. Like, what would you like to talk about?
I mean, something that me and Q has been like talking about, we've talked about some, is like, you know, calling. I even preached on that today, like Ephesians chapter 4. You know, I get that we all have specific gifts and God's gifted us with different things, but, you know, do we get to pick our avenue of ministry? You know, like what I'm saying, like, you know, because I think a lot of, I don't even want to use the word conservative or traditional. I don't want to put anybody in a box. Mm-hmm. But, you know, like this idea or notion of just like, you know, granted, God has a will. We need to get with that will. We need to do what God wants us to do. So, but the question, I'm curious, like, and on this journey lately at this, I don't know if it's my age. I don't know if it's whatever, but like, what kind of say do we get with Creator God? Like what obviously not this motive or not this heart where it's like, well, I don't want to do that, you know, because obviously that didn't work out well for Jonah. But you know what I'm saying? Like, what is that freedom of ministry? What is that freedom of relationship? And
you need to minister. What would you like to do, Derek? Like that kind of thing.
Say that one more time.
Like you need to be my servant. I'm speaking as if I'm God. What would you like to do, Derek? That's kind of what you're talking about. I
don't know. Like, see,
or is that possible?
I don't even know. Like, is that even within the realm? Like, that's something that I'm currently like unpacking. And by the way, like I feel like I'm finding stuff scripturally that
gives you freedom.
Gives me some freedom to do certain things, but then also, you know,
Scripture
I keep going back to Paul. Like, I just wonder if Paul would say after the Damascus Road that he had a choice.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
You know what makes me curious?
What makes you curious?
Today, this made me really curious. I was riding on an Alabama highway in rural Alabama, and on these two light poles, within, I'd say, less than a mile of each other were two random Batman signs.
Could it be?
That's interesting.
I mean, I just want to know,
Like why they got there.
what's going on between those two
Yeah.
Batman signs.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, I'm serious.
I wonder.
It's ate me up.
Let's just think about this for a second. Let's go down that road a little bit. I remember, not so much now, but whether it was real, whether it was stupid kids, I don't know. But like the 4-way stop right before my house, there was MS-13 gang signs on it, kind of like tagging territory. So
In Boaz?
yes,
No way. You're making this.
I'm not making it up. It was the MS-13 symbol. Now
I feel
again,
like-
I'm not.
I
I
feel
don't
like
know who put that there.
I feel like I told a cool story and you made up another story.
I did not make it up. I'm serious.
I'm curious about the authenticity of the story.
It's true. I'm not lying. As to who put that there, I don't know. It was actually Miss 13. Mom,
Did you put it there?
I did not
For the story?
I got my crayons out. But my point is perhaps it's like some kind of gang affiliation or something like that. Or probably not. I don't know.
I think to that curious thing, like I think lately I've noticed as I've gotten older, I want to know the reason and the thought process behind people's actions sometimes.
Yeah. Understand it.
Big actions, little actions, like I golf, and so there's sometimes where I observe other groups, like to the point where I have no idea, like if it's my shot, if it's my other shot, like
Why do they do
why
what
did
they do?
that?
Yeah, I'm there.
Or like why, like this past 2 weekends ago, like why is that group of 3 so incredibly slow? Like what's taking so long? Is it?
Yeah.
Is there a substance involved? Is it, we're hanging with our friends? Yeah. Like, did we stop and baptize somebody on hole 3? Like, I don't know. But then also, like, relationally, like, even with my friends, like, I've become way more analytical. And so, like, in our conversations,
been analyzing
part of me wants, like, there's questions like, so what made you feel that way? Like, was it something that I did? Was it something I said? Like, what did you see in the circumstances of the conversation? Like, what led you to that comment or to that conclusion or things like that? And it may be because I'm a dad, and it's like, why did we do that?
Yeah, I'm the same way. I think too many times we do not learn from people because we don't do that. Like even really bad people. Like it is beneficial for us to understand why Hitler thought the way he thought. And so in regards to that, you don't think so, Key?
I mean, I just feel like that's overplayed.
All right, so far in the introduction, you've made up a story, and you've pulled out a historical cliche. This is going to be great.
Man. Maybe it should be Q and Derek experiment.
No, just use a different thing. Like, I'd like to know how, somebody else, not Hitler. He just gets so much play. It's like overplayed. I'm just saying it's overplayed.
Okay, you said I should be a little more unique. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I came with Batman signs.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm not near as cool.
We weren't traveling down that roadway, so we didn't see the Batman signs.
Yeah. I saw Spider-Man signs last week. I'm just kidding. I didn't
Like,
see Spider-Man. I made that one up.
Maybe you should learn from the bad people around you.
I agree.
How do we learn from what Hitler thinks? Do we even know what Hitler thinks?
I mean, he did write a book, but I don't know how coherent that book is.
Yeah.
So we all should read the book?
I know. That's not what I'm suggesting.
All right. Here's the deal. That's
my
a curious
point. My point is not even Hitler.
No.
Like, I'm not saying Hitler. I'm just saying bad people. Exactly your point.
All right. That brings me to a question. Because people, this is curious to me. Because some people, I've heard Voddie Bachman say this, that like what you just said, he homeschools his kids, and Hitler's book, Mein Kampf, was on the reading list because he said just what you said.
We need to understand.
We don't hide from things. We want to expose things. I think that was all right. So
the reason why Germany teaches about the Holocaust,
right? But they also don't parade it around in the streets. They put it in museums.
Correct. I agree. We got political there.
We did.
Yeah.
I went there.
Yeah.
But all right. So like, do you think
you have the freedom to do that?
Do you think that we should expose those and learn from that? Or should we go, I know kind of what happened in World War II. That dude was crazy. Some might even say possessed, evil, and move on.
No, I don't think I think if we're going to learn from it, we have to study it. And if we're going to study it, then it's not that guy's bad.
I don't have time.
You don't have time for World War II?
No, I do. To study it, no.
Well, I think too what's important. I thoroughly enjoy it. So I mean, there's that aspect. Apparently, you do not. So
no, I enjoy it.
I got you.
I mean,
you would rather deal with the bad people now. So.
Explain bad people now.
Yeah,
like explain that. Like when you just said, learn from the bad people around you.
I mean, there's just bad people around you. I mean, I don't want to say their names. I don't want to like out them. Like right here. Like, hey guys, real quick.
I literally have no one in my mind.
You have no one in your mind.
Which, by the way, leads me to this thought process. Like, what is our role in reaching those around us if we're not, like, if I don't know someone in my life right now that's, like, far from God? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
getting this Christian bubble. Is that what you're talking about?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, there's some curiosity around that for sure. But I definitely, like, there's bad people I have to learn from. It takes a lot of patience. Especially, like, I have one job that's a pastor. And then I have another job that's in a secular setting. And it's very easy. I mean, I see them in the pastor position too, but it's very easy to see some people who necessarily don't care about their job, aren't excited about it, aren't living it in a way that is beneficial to other people. I would not. Yeah. They're not like
drawing
evil.
A paycheck.
They're not trying to destroy a people group, but they're like bad people right now. They're not doing a good job.
Yeah, that someone else could occupy their position and do better.
Absolutely. So they frustrate me, and so I'm trying to learn from them, which is very hard.
Yeah.
Like I actually, now that I think about it more, I don't even like the idea of learning from bad people anymore. That sounds frustrating.
Well, so
that sounds frustrating to me.
I've here recently I've kind of been thinking about this, and I've learned it from UQ.
Oh no.
So like I think that if you take somebody who is a jerk 70% of the time, but the other 30% of the time they have something to offer, then it is self-deprecating to not at least learn from that 30% and just completely write them off.
I mean, I think
because that's what our natural tendency is if he's a jerk 70% of the time, I want to be done with him and move on.
You're right.
Whereas 30% of the time, he's got something to offer, so I should benefit from it.
I definitely think you're right.
Or there can be some really good people, even some saved people, that just find themselves in a bad spot, either in this life stage.
Saved people do bad things,
they do things, and you can just file that away as, okay, well, if I'm ever in that position, maybe not do some of those things.
Yes.
So like
learn from others' mistakes.
I think that you can learn. I don't think they necessarily have to be bad people, and I also think that there's a ton of good folks that get in this stage in life where things don't make sense and they're in a rut. And I think I've been there. So it's like, but I do think that as a whole, I think Q's in this unique position. There's a lot of people in full-time ministry that get in this insulated mode, and they don't have that interaction with the world, and they lose perspective of what people go through, and what they're experiencing and what they're feeling.
Just full transparency, I think that is a difficulty for me. I think I find it very, very easy to get into a bubble.
Well, I mean, you've worked basically in ministry your entire life,
career.
So, like, Q has been in ministry a long time. I had 5 years in a school. So like,
that's why, like, here recently, and within the last 2 months, started going to the gym. Why I enjoy it so much is because suddenly I am thrust into an environment where there are other people outside of my little Christian bubble.
I'm curious. One thing I'm curious about is workout and health stuff. Now I'm curious about that.
Yeah, I am too.
I'm curious about my lack of discipline.
Ain't that interesting?
You know what I'm saying? Like, why is the self-control not there to just like completely pound McDonald's? You know what I'm saying? Like, and then write it off as well, I'll just go work out later. But I worked out twice last week. So like, did I really accomplish anything? Like, it's not a food problem. It's not a workout problem. It's strictly a discipline.
Yeah.
To make myself do the things that I'm supposed to do.
I find issues in the opposite direction. And I realize this is not an episode about working out, but like,
stay tuned.
I get super focused and passionate about something almost too much. Like, for example,
you're a level 9 clinger.
Do what?
Yeah, you're that guy.
You're a level 9 clinger.
I suppose.
Yeah.
Like, so if I'm really on board and passionate about something, but my wife's not, it really frustrates me. Like, why are you like? This is obviously extremely beneficial.
Which, by the way,
I've told you all of these reasons why it's extremely
by the
important.
way,
why do you not love it?
Makes perfect sense why you've asked me twice if I was going to bail on this podcast.
Exactly,
because
exactly
I didn't match your intensity.
Indeed,
because I knew that today would be a hard day mentally for me. So it was like
80% of that was I was kidding, but you are correct.
No, 80 is too high.
No, it is not. I was just messing with you.
Too high.
It was a probe, certainly. But
well, but the thing is, I know that about you, so it was like, no, I'm not bailing. I just don't know if this week is a great week.
So was that control or insecurity?
Both.
I agree. I think it's both.
Okay.
And I don't mean that. Like, we're close enough for me to say that. Most people that dive into something that hard, that passionately, and they can do it with multiple things. They like the control of it, but then there's also a part of them that if we don't accept part of that, then it's on their end, not ours.
Well, I will say, like, at this stage of my life, it's not as big of a deal anymore. I mean, like, if y'all said, like, this is a terrible idea, even after tonight, like, we record this episode, and you're like, this is stupid. I mean, I'm going to go home a little disappointed, but I'm not going to cry, which I wouldn't have cried before.
You'd be a little bummed about it for a while, but you'd get over it. Yeah.
I certainly would, yeah. Whereas before, it would have, like, I really would have took it as a shot to my identity, which is jacked.
But see, I think also, like, just, like, transparency, like, I'm on the other end of that, where you're the type of person that you would just like, hey, let's do a podcast. And you just were like, because you wanted to do it, you were passionate about it. Mm-hmm. There's some things that, like, I'm passionate about, but I have this, like, it won't work, or, like, no one will participate, or things like that.
So,
it's more insecurity than it is passion and take control, because it's like, I'll pass.
Well,
you know what I'm saying? I'll pass.
Because you don't want it to fail.
Yes.
Yeah. And two, this is why I said, like, maybe this is naive. Maybe I'm just being naive. But again, at this stage in my life, it's less that I'm trying to control people. But it's like, do you know the difference between a leader and a visionary? Is a visionary sees something that's beneficial and he gets frustrated when people don't follow it. A leader sees what is beneficial and then finds ways to get people on board to do it, right? And in a lot of ways, I'm a visionary, and so if I see something like this podcast and I think Derek and Q could benefit tremendously from this, and we could do something great, and then you're not on board with it, I get frustrated.
I'm also curious about monastic life and tennis shoes.
Yeah, that's always important.
All right, monastic life, like, whatever. But what about tennis shoes?
I'm just curious in the whole, like, phenomenon of them. Like, I really...
Catholicism.
I like tennis shoes, but...
Like the demon shoes?
No, just...
Like unique stuff?
No, just,
my gosh,
sneakerhead stuff.
That's unique stuff.
Like,
Preacher sneakers?
I mean, I follow that, but it's not even that. Like, just... I like the creative... I don't know. I like how people express themselves through tennis shoes.
You're talking about, like, people who customize them and art and
like
stuff?
that. I like customizable tennis shoes. I have a pair of customizable tennis shoes. I like them. So,
but, like, what are you like? Are you curious as to
just
why
curious about the whole, like, phenomenon that's took off over the last few years? The whole, like, people are making their living off just buying and reselling, sneakers.
I wish money was not enough. I hope this podcast takes off, because I would love to just, like, start collecting, like, vintage shoes.
See,
like Jordans. I would love to be into that, but, like, one, I'm a little dumb, and I don't want to put forth the effort to research it. But two, like, the crap's expensive.
Well, maybe again the difference is in us. Like, maybe it's just because I'm just utilitarian and like, I want to find these pair of shoes that are super comfortable and just ride them. Like, I don't care about having another pair of shoes. And again, maybe it's because I'm uncool and boring.
What? I don't know. Just be you. All right, so maybe we should take a second to introduce like ourselves, maybe just some like background info of who we are and.
Since we already got super personal.
Yeah, I mean, you've kind of heard we're curious. We're going to talk about many of these things, maybe all these things at some point over the next few years.
Certainly. I think it...
So are you locked in? My contract...
He has signed the contract.
My contract was for 1 month, okay? So I don't know what you got.
I think before we go there, I think it's important, too, to, like, we can kid all we want, but we know we're not experts. So when we say that we're providing resources for youth pastors and parents and students and stuff... The idea is to actually interview people who know something too. So that's what I look forward to with the podcast as well, is getting people who have degrees in a particular field.
Tom Hanks.
Absolutely.
Stand by.
We will do what we can to get Tom Hanks. So in that regard, I agree. Let's do biographies. Q, do you want to start?
Sure. My name's Q. I from the area, but I don't even know where the area is at, so it doesn't matter. From North Alabama. I mean, just put it, because I mean, this is going to be a worldwide podcast, so North Alabama is probably as general as you need.
WWW.
Yeah, but I started preaching when I was 15, got into youth ministry when I was 19, and did youth ministry for about 7 or 8 years, and then ended up planting a church, then planted 3 more churches, and currently one of the pastors of the church originally planted. Married, got 3 daughters. I don't know what else you need to know. Played college football. I should share my areas of expertise. I've played college football. I've planted a lot of churches. Done quite a bit of mission work. I've been in jail. Those are probably the things that have taught me the most in life.
So
just for a weekend in jail, it was great fun.
In preparation for this, I told y'all to think about the most embarrassing story for you to share. So would you prefer to do that or tell us about jail?
Well, I mean, so when I was planting church number 3 in Eugene, Oregon, I also got a job with the Eugene Mission. I was the director of social services there, and just to be quite frank, it had been ran by the same folks for a long time, and there was just a lot of shadiness that was happening.
Didn't know where you were going with that SH right
there. A lot of shadiness that was happening inside the Eugene Mission. So we had to bring in drug dogs, broke up a bunch of drug trafficking rings, all kind of madness. FBI was working with us on stuff. But so then a lot of people got mad because their supply chains, money chains, been broken up. Yeah. I mean, we revamped, did a whole recovery program. It was great. But in that process, a lot of death threats, and then just, other threats. And somebody made some claim that I had ran them down with my car. I mean, there was no truth to it, but apparently you can just tell the police stuff.
So they swore a warrant for your arrest?
I did.
How about that?
And
did you go peacefully?
Well, so I didn't even know that warrant existed till a year later. And my driving privileges got suspended. And I'm like, what's going on? So I called the police office on a Monday, and they say, you didn't report an accident that happened. It's like, okay, haven't had an accident that happened, but we'll look into that. And he goes, we can't tell you anything else. You have to talk to the reporting officer because it's still an open case. I go, okay.
This is crazy.
So I go up there to see the reporting officer on Wednesday. He's like, he's not here. So he calls me on Thursday afternoon and says, hey, just come up here Friday. I'll be here Friday. If I can teach you anything in this podcast.
That was not like a meet and greet, was it?
No, if I can teach you anything, don't go to the police department on Friday. Go wait the weekend. Let them come get you if they need to. But if you're going to go to the police department,
he set you up so hard.
You go on a Monday. All right. So anyway, I go on Friday. We walk through the whole thing. He tells me this whole story. I tell him the story of what went on that day, what happened, and he goes, "Hey, I'm going to have to go talk to my superior officer." So I was like, "Can I use my phone?" He's like, "Yeah." So I call my wife and I'm like, "Hey, heads up, I think I'm going to jail. Like, I think this guy's about to arrest me." Just had a feeling. So he wasn't mean. I mean, he gave me 2 pair of handcuffs, which is nice. So I didn't have to.
How did she react?
I mean, it was chaos at that point, because what happens is then I get taken to jail. I get put in a holding cell for about 5 hours, like with these other people that me and them don't like me very much. I've been charged as a violent offender because I've been charged with 2 felonies, with a felony hit and run and felony assault with a deadly weapon. I get strip searched, the whole spread your spread your butt cheeks and cough. I mean, the whole prison experience I got to have. Get put in a cell on the floor where's the violent offender floor.
So some rough characters in there.
Yeah, but I was in solitary lockup.
Oh, that's awesome.
So mentally, did you like hold it together?
Oh
or?
No.
Okay.
Like I would like. I mean, you start the thing about. So then, like, I went to bed at, I don't know what time it is. I'm going to sleep on this little cot or trying to go to sleep, and it's like a metal bed. They give you like a little pad you unroll and a pillow.
Because you don't know what's coming.
I don't know what's coming. Somebody knocks on my door, slides in some breakfast. Like 10 minutes later, get out your tray. You know. Then like 30 minutes later, you want to go walk the yard? No. I'm like, well, I didn't know. I was like, okay. So then I went out and started walking this yard, and people are like, hey, what you in here for? You know, the whole, like, it's not real life. I'm like, oh,
like,
man.
you're living Shawshank.
So then you're trying to be like, not like, oh, I don't know. You're trying to be like, you don't want to get taken advantage of.
I ran the man over.
So you're like,
I would have just been a man.
Oh man, I was trying to put. So it's like, man, there's some false charges that they're trying to put on me. You go, what are they putting on me? I told them what they're putting on me. They go, man, that's a minimum 7-year sentence. And then you're like,
because they know.
Oh yeah, they know. Then you're trying to be like it just stresses you out. But
all the while, you know that you did not run this fellow over.
Yeah. Then I go in after that and talk to your bond. They set your bond. In Oregon, you don't have like bail's bonds, but you got to pay a 10% of your bond. My bond was set for $210,000, which meant to get out of jail, I had to pay $21,000 for my bond. So
you did not get out of jail.
No, there was no get out of jail free card for me. So then, anyway, I stayed there a whole weekend. There's actually some cool things. I won't bore you with those things, but Monday, my lawyer sees me and it goes, hey, you're going to get arraigned today. Well, they never call me down for arraignment. My lawyer's like, that's really weird. I don't know what's going on. And then Monday night about 9:30 or 10, somebody comes by and goes, roll your stuff up. And they walked me out and let me out. I think they knew they kind of messed up. And they were trying to like just get me out of
real
there.
nasty.
Yeah, I had some lawyers that could have sued the city for some serious money, but I feel like God sent me to help that city. Last thing I want to do when I was leaving was sue the city. You know,
yeah.
So
very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jail's teaches you a lot.
I imagine so. What about you, Derek? Tell us about you.
Well, I'm kind of like Q. I grew up here. I was born in '88. It was grew up here, went to school here. Chased my
for all of our international listeners, explain what here is.
Albertville,
Artville,
not Boaz, okay?
Not Boaz,
not Boaz, not Gunnersville, not Arab. Yeah, Artville, okay, not Aroni, Artville. Chased my high school sweetheart to Auburn. I knew we were going to get married after we broke up, so had to get her back. So went down to Auburn and enrolled, got accepted. She took me back. We got married. We have 2 kids. So that part worked out. After we graduated,
you're not paying child support.
No. After we graduated, I got a job. I got a job at Opelika Middle School. I was a teacher. I got to coach football. It's funny. Like I was gonna be the next Nick Saban. I was gonna be the GOAT. And I thought that in my mind I was already Nick Saban. I learned that sometimes the ladder of success is not exactly what you think. It doesn't move, but really and truthfully, when you've got a group of young men at such a vital age, and like for me, I coached 8th grade, coached middle school. When you still can keep contact with kids and people and parents, talk about the impact that you had. That's way more important than just being good at X's and O's. So I coached. I got plugged into Highlands College. I was in a small group. I wasn't saved until I was 18, but I grew up in church. I was like typical church kid. Thought I was saved. Said all the right things. Did all the right things. Well, on the surface. Saved when I was 18. Then went through this period in my 20s where I had a lot of freedom. Did what I wanted to do. Lived my life. God radically changed me through Church of the Highlands, and I got plugged into Highlands College and worked on a certificate of ministry. And then it was through a small group I mean, even God changing me and feeling like I was communicating with God. Like I still was going to coach, I still was going to teach, but I was going to do that for God. Like, but that was what I was going to do. And then one night in a small group, my small group leader, like what they would do is at the end of each small group, the leaders would go and pray for each man individually. And then one night, Keith, my small group leader, I noticed that he's not praying. Like he's talking. And I'm like, this is weird. And he just said, Derek, like, you're not a coach. Like, he said that. He said, you're not a coach. He said, you're a pastor. And then he said that. He goes, you're my pastor. And he said, you're my pastor. And God's put this gift. He's put this call on your life. And felt nothing emotionally to that comment, by the way. Like, it wasn't...
Did you look at him and be like, oh...
I was like, okay.
Cool.
I was like, whatever. Like, it wasn't like I broke down in tears and the sky opened up and God was like, this is my son. He's my kid. I love him. He's going to preach. Like, it wasn't that deal. But as time went on, those words and the Holy Spirit, like, convicted me and moved me. And then my old pastor of the church I grew up at Solitude, he called me one summer day and was like, hey, I have this crazy idea. And but I just want to talk to you. He's like, you just come up next time you're home, 4th of July, next time you're in Albertville, we'll talk. And that's all he said. That's all I knew. And I walked out of the bedroom. I was in my guest bedroom in Opelika when he called, and I walked out, and my wife was sitting in the recliner. I said, she was like, who is that? And I was like, this is my old pastor when I was a kid. She's like, oh, really? What did he want? And I was like, oh, he just wanted to talk. She goes, what does he want to talk about next time you're home? And I said, I don't know, but we're going to have to sell the house and we're going to have to move home. And she went, no, we're not. And I was like, I'm just telling you, yeah, we are. Like, I knew. Like, yeah. I just knew. And so for the last 5 years, I have been a youth pastor, small groups, youth, church growth and development, a lot of other things. So, that's me.
That sounds so professional, church growth and development.
It does.
Sounds
it sounds like I should have a business card.
That's awesome. Clay?
My contract just got bumped up.
Before we go me, you didn't share an embarrassing story about yourself.
All right, so I thought about this some.
Mine's very bad.
It didn't come to me until later, but you know how like parties in middle school are such a big deal? Okay, you know your parents have to drop you off, but it's such a big deal.
He didn't go to parties.
I did not go to parties.
Well, it really wasn't parties. It was more just like
he didn't go to those.
You talking about like birthday?
Let me look at you.
You talking about like
you talking
about like birthday parties? Is that what you're talking about?
He didn't go to those.
Were there pinatas? Did you have a pinata?
I am the least cool guy.
So I remember in middle school, I was in 8th grade. You know, like the most vital year probably. 8th grade is just such a pivotal year, psychologically, emotionally, relationally, and so my buddy has a party, and we were like down in this woods area, and he's got this cool like shed house thing in the woods, and like when it was just us guys that we slept in that shed. But they've got lights and generators, and now it's all lit up, and you know all of my friends are like hanging out in this shed, and there's this ladder that goes up to this loft, and there's people like there's adults here. I mean, we're in 8th grade, so there are adults around, and I remember. So my friends were up there, and I was the social butterfly in middle school. So I was gonna come up the ladder and say hello, and so I get about halfway up the ladder. And a buddy of mine, his name was Quinton Arnold, grabs the bottom of my shorts, okay, as I'm on this ladder. And I don't know if you've ever had your shorts or pants removed while you're on a ladder. There's very little that you can do to recover from that immediately
without letting
go of the ladder. So like I'm halfway on top.
Did you have to climb back? Go?
I had to make a decision. Do I try to get down? Do I go down to fix this, or do I go up to fix this? And meanwhile, everybody Everybody is losing it.
Oh, I
you know what I'm
imagine
saying?
so,
Just
yeah.
losing it.
Yeah.
All right. I think I went up. Like my mind, I've
kinda
blocked.
blacked out.
I've blacked out. Like I don't.
You went into a
I think I
dissociative
went
state.
up.
You-
Yeah, this was like gone. All right, and then I survived that, and everybody's kind of cool about it. Like, hey, remember Derek lost his pants, whatever. All right, but then really and truthfully, it was embarrassing to lose your shorts in front of like your friend group. Okay.
Yeah.
The more embarrassing thing is it was Drake Smith and his dad. I spent my whole from middle school on till high school. The Smiths in a way raised me. I love Mike and Cinda. What's funny is when my parents picked me up to this party, Mike comes out to the car. And dad, my mom and dad are there, and my sisters are in the van because they just for some reason they all came to pick me up from this party, and so I get in the car, and there's nothing in my mind that's like. So Mike walks out, and my dad's like, "Well, did he behave?" Typical dad talk. Mike said, "Well, Jeff,
He got paid.
we need to talk about something," and Mike is just dead, and I'm like, what did I got to talk about? I didn't do anything at this point. I didn't get in trouble. Like, what are we doing? And Mike says, Jeff, we need to have a conversation about your son keeping his pants on. And I remember my mom going, oh, that like typical, like, and I'm like, and then Mike broke character and he laughed and he goes, oh, Derek got pantsed on the ladder. It was great. Everybody, and I was just, but I'll just never forget. Like, that was the scariest. One, it was this. Once my mom went, oh my gosh. But yeah, that was pretty embarrassing.
Yeah.
What do you do on a ladder if your pants come down? I need to put that in a sermon.
I'm not sure. So again, my name is Clay, and I am the youngest and probably the most foolish one in the room.
But you are the prettiest.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I don't think that's pretty true. I wasn't the quarterback, so quarterbacks are always handsome. So
Touché.
yeah. So anyway, I always like to tell people, like, because my story, I was saved at a very young age, and I've been in church my whole life. I always like to tell people that there is no boring conversion story, but if there was one, it would be mine. Because I remember
The greatest miracle on earth.
That's right. Well, see, I was sitting in seminary one time in a class, and
at 6, right? You were in seminary at age 6.
that's right. Yeah. And so it was a very small class because it's an extension class in Rainsville. So there's like 4 or 5 other guys in there, and so the first night, everybody just goes around and does what we're doing right now, like tells something about themselves, and so they go counterclockwise, starting at the other end. So I'm the last one. So the first guy, he's telling this incredible story. Like, he used to like be a pagan worshiper with Greek mythology, like would worship Zeus with his buddies on the weekends with like warlocks and stuff like this. And then through this magnificent vision, God revealed himself to him and he became a Christian. Everybody's like, wow. Goes to the next guy. And the next guy, good friend of mine, his name is Dakota, tells this incredible story about how he was a drug dealer selling meth on the streets of Gadsden.
Did he do the MS-13 thing?
I don't know. He may have.
Okay. I'm
But
just trying to fix that for you.
yeah, I don't know. But anyway, he's a drug dealer on the streets of Gadsden, and he decides he's going to go into the military to shape himself up. So he goes into the military. He does a tour in Afghanistan, gets shot, and he's laying on the ground with blood squirting out of his body. And this medic comes over, shares the gospel with him. Up to this point, he's an atheist, and he gives his life to Christ right there in the sand. And he thinks I'm dead. And so the lights go out on him. He comes to, and he's in the hospital, and he survived. And so then he's like, if God gave me a second chance, I'm going to give him everything I've got. So he gets the call to ministry, and now he's like the youth pastor in Gadsden to the kids that he sold meth to. So there's that guy. And we're like, wow, that's incredible. Next guy is like this former rock star who used to be in this rock band with booze, women, drugs, and everything. And he's telling us all. And then God showed himself to him. It's incredible. Next guy was in a biker gang. I'm not messing with you.
Everybody's story's memorized.
I'm serious. It's bad. Like, everyone in there are heathens. Like, former, and like all of this stuff. Like, he was in this biker gang. They used to do all these horrible things, stuff. God showed himself. And we're like, wow, that's incredible. And they all look at me. And I was like, I got saved when I was like 5.
I was robbing Juicy Juices.
I didn't do any of that. So, but that's seriously my story. Like I know a lot of kids, like as you just said, Derek, like get saved and quote. I'm doing quotes right here.
Yeah.
And then later on in life, they realized that was not correct, and that was not my story. Like I remember vividly at like 5 years old, understanding how detrimental this was and legitimately coming to Christ. And but throughout my life, like there's been like slaps of God. Like I remember vividly when I was 12, I'm sitting in church one day and it's like God spoke to me and was like, you have done jack squat for me since you've been saved. And then I remember when I was a freshman. So full disclaimer, I met my wife in our youth group and dated her my freshman year, and then literally never dated anybody else in high school. So I was a freshman, she was a senior, and I was a cool kid. Not really, not at all actually. But anyway, she was really serious in her faith and I wasn't. So there's another slap. And so I started ramping up in my faith, and when I was 17, I was called to preach. And then when I was 18, Beulah Baptist Church called me to be their youth pastor. And I was there for a while, for 4 years. And then I came here to Mount Vernon. So I've been doing that ever since. 25 years old, like I said, youngest person in the room, probably the most foolish.
But Mount Vernon is in the city limits of Albertville, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Not in the city limits. We're not in the city limits.
So
we have an
Boaz?
Albertville address.
But it's Boaz.
So the other day, I had to go get something from the post office, and I went to the Albertville post office, if that makes you feel better.
I don't know.
Yeah. So was that your embarrassing story? Or
No, it was not. Here's my embarrassing story, and it's pretty bad. So my freshman year of high school, it is literally my first day of high school.
Oh.
Okay. Now, as I've mentioned, and as Q was giving me verbal abuse for, I was not a cool kid in high school. Okay. And so I'm not saying I was terrified, but it's the first day of high school for an uncool kid. Okay. So the stomach begins to rumble. Okay. So I was like, I gotta go to the bathroom. So I planned this out in my head because I'm like, well, if I go during the changing of classes, then there'll be a whole lot of people, and I don't want that. So I waited till I got to class, asked the teacher to go to the bathroom, and I do. Now, for you Albertville people, you do not know this, but anybody from Boaz will empathize here. The top story, the second story of the Boaz High School.
So second story is
correct.
the top
Correct.
story?
It sure is.
Okay.
So,
Sorry.
It's all right. I don't know if they've reformed it now, but back in the day, it was atrocious, the men's restroom. And, like, didn't have a door on the stall. It was just really, really nasty and bad.
It's everything I envisioned.
I do not know that there's other bathrooms in this school that are better. This is my first day. So I go into the bathroom. There's no door on the stall. I'm like, but everybody's in class. It's cool. Like I'll just so I sit down and I start doing my business, right?
Oh no.
I do my business. And I look and there's no toilet paper. And I'm like, that's okay. That's all right. Well, I'm not freaking out because I can use paper towels over there. So I go over to the paper towels. There's no paper towels. Why we don't have toilet paper or paper towels in this forsaken bathroom on the first day of school, I do not know. So now I'm in a little bit of a panic mode. So I go back to the toilet. I'm kind of sitting there trying to ponder my possibilities. And
did you try to like dip your bottom down?
No, I did not. And to my horror, to make this worse, the door opens.
Oh no!
Also, very important for this story.
I don't know, does the door open with pants up or pants down at this point?
Pants down.
Still down. Okay.
Yeah.
You
And
have a door on the stall.
when this door opens, it's full shot from the hall to yes. Now, luckily,
So wait, all the stalls face like the door?
there's one stall. There's one stall, one urinal in this bathroom. There's no door. Now, luckily, again, it's during classes, so nobody's in the hallway for some girl to see me with my pants down in the bathroom. But the door swings open, and before this old boy gets to come into the bathroom, I've jumped up, pulled my pants up, okay? Hadn't wiped at this point, okay? It's a coach. And I'm like, praise God Almighty. somebody's here to help me.
No, he's not.
And so I said, hey, sir, there's no toilet paper. And he says to me, man, that sucks.
Sounds like a bad first day.
And I said, I know. And I was going to go use the paper towels, and there's no paper towels either. And he goes, well, that really sucks. And so I was like, appreciate your help. So I go outside into the hallway, pants up, obviously. And I'm trying to figure out what to do with my life at this point. Like, what in the world? And praise God Almighty, there was assistant principal. And I was like, is there another bathroom in this school other than that one? And she's like, yes, sir. There's one. So, but that's the embarrassing story. Wow. It's pretty awful.
Wait, was jail your embarrassing story?
Yes.
Well,
But
I mean,
is that really
I
embarrassing?
kind of told him like doing an embarrassing story or the jail story.
Or the jail story.
Okay. Yeah, there's plenty of time to tell embarrassing stories. But
Hey, so I don't want to keep us too long in this first episode. People are tuning in. Could we just real quick maybe take a moment and talk about what you hope folks listening would get out of this personally, like what you hope you're able to bring to the table for them?
Go ahead, Clay.
I don't know. I got to think about it for a second.
I hope that you find someone that you can, it's a little bit relatable. That some of the life stories that we've lived will, maybe even our mistakes, will bring you some encouragement and some hope that it's going to be okay. And just realize too that God uses, all kind of folks to do work, and that being curious, that we don't have to be stuck in some kind of bubble or look all the same, that our curiosity creates something really unique and beautiful inside of us. Yeah, that'd be my hopes, I think.
Yeah, I think that's awesome.
We should have let him go last.
Yeah, we should have. Yeah, and I've kind of already said this, but part of my hope for this, and there's a couple of different perspective and names for this podcast, but one of the big things for me is to provide a soundboard for just random stuff and things that interest us from a Christian perspective. And what I mean by that is, like, again, there's every single second of this podcast is not going to be, overtly spiritual things, and I think it's important for us. It's
the embarrassing moments.
Yeah. So, like, for example, the same, whether you like contemporary Christian music or not, I think it's pretty cool that in our time period, there's kind of a genre, rap, rock, whatever, in Christian music for whatever anybody likes. Like, if you like rap music, you don't have to just listen to secular rap. Like, there's actually relatively quality Christian rap. And so I kind of hope to do that here too. Like, if we're going to talk about weird and curious stuff, then we can do it from a Christian perspective and offer that to people who might be interested in that. Derek?
I think that with my age and with my vast experience of 5 years in ministry, I'm less and less intrigued about things that we've done just because we've done them. Okay? And I think that over the last year, there's an urgency to be way more authentic and transparent and clear about faith. And so I think with that comes normal conversations. And by normal, I mean, I feel like Jesus lived his ministry having conversations with people. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't a set of regulations. It wasn't a set time, like 9:45 and 11, and words like Sunday school and vacation Bible school. Like, all of those have their places. And that's not a knock on those institutions. But all of our conversations, whether we're curious, whether it's random, whether it's whatever, is like, does it point to a creator that wants to save us and have a real relationship with us? So whether we're a teacher, whether we play video games, whether we work full-time ministry, like, it's about this life and getting closer to God in the process so that we can be more like him. And so, like, even with this podcast, like, talking about random junk? Like, does it lead people to a clearer picture of what Christ is, while celebrating the uniqueness of how He made us? You know what I'm saying? Like,
well, in that same regard, one of the reasons why I do find myself pretty curious is because there's a thing called the cultural mandate. It's where Jesus says, "Have dominion over the earth." And so if I'm curious about space, if I'm curious about the things of the earth, I think that's rooted in that God wants me to learn and to know as much as I can while I'm here.
Space is not the earth.
Ooh, how about that?
Just want to clarify.
Yeah, appreciate that. So we should not study space.
Yeah, we don't need to have dominion over space.
No, better just leave that alone. Universe.
The final frontier.
Astrophysics and all that.
Yeah, leave it alone.
Yeah.
All right. So I think we're good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Look, I think I don't know this, Clay, but I imagine that you're going to potentially have a Facebook page or something where this stuff gets pushed out to. I don't know.
We'll do YouTube, probably Instagram. Again, I'm the least cool dude in the room, so I'm open to suggestions.
So I just say that if you're listening to this, Clay's probably worked hard to get some of this stuff out there. Feel free to search us up on your social media avenues on YouTube. You can watch the videos. If you're listening to this, want to see our pretty faces, man, it was worth your time. So make sure to check that out.
You're welcome.
Well, while also knowing this is a work in progress. So like right now, I don't think we're getting any video for this, which is fine.
That's great.
But again, we're learning. So.
We are. But we just appreciate you joining in on this journey with us. We're excited about where it's going to take us, and we're hopeful it's going to be something helpful for many of you folks out there. So thanks so much for hanging. We'll see you next time.